Okay, guys, this is 5-6 now. Okay, we're going to be working this for the next 2 days. Sorry, you might hear my dogs barking sometimes throughout this whole process. Um, okay, so let me bring this up. We'll start 5-6. You're going to need your calculator for this. Okay. All right, so we've talked about this before in class. You can pause the video and write this down if you'd like to. The fundamental theorem of algebra. The fundamental theorem of algebra says that a polynomial has as many roots as its largest exponent. Okay. So what we're going to work on now is how do you find the roots or the x-intercepts or the answers or the zeros, all those mean the same thing again, of a problem that we do not have a technique of how to factor it. Okay, so the first problem is going to be this: x to the fourth plus x to the third minus 7x squared minus 9x minus 18. Okay, now let me just warn you, this is not like a two-step problem. Okay, this has many steps. You have to have the mental stamina to get to the end. And not give up. Okay, so first of all, let me explain. If I said the directions say find all roots, okay, first the fundamental theorem of algebra tells me that this thing has 4 answers. Okay, that's 4 answers. That could be with multiplicity, that could be with imaginary roots, that could be with rational roots, but it has 4. Okay, now I don't have any way of knowing how to factor this. It's not a quadratic, so I can't type it in John Ritt or do the quadratic formula. It's not a 4-term polynomial where I can do factor by grouping. It's not a 4-2-0. It's not a sum or difference of cubes. It's not a difference of squares. Okay, so I need another method here. The method is going to be this. I'm going to let my calculator give me a root. Okay, now it didn't have a calculator, you'd have to use the rational root theorem and just start guessing and checking. Okay, but fortunately, we have this very smart calculator at our use here. Okay, so we're going to use it. I'm typing in my y equals button right now. Oh no, look what I did. We're going to try this again. There we go. Okay, I got it there. Okay, and I'm going to hit graph, and I'm going to look at the graph. It's going to give me some roots. Okay, look, it's showing me, I think it's showing me, that -3 and +3 are roots. I can go to my table, I can check that. As long as -3 and +3 have a y value of 0, which they both do, as you can see, then I know that those are roots. Okay, what that means is I can use -3 and 3 using whatever type of division you're comfortable with. I think synthetic division is the easiest. And I'm going to work this thing down until I get it to a quadratic or get it to something that is factorable. The second that I get it to something I know how to factor, then I don't have to keep doing this process anymore. I can just factor it. Okay, so let's start with -3. I know that -3 is a root. So I'm going to use synthetic division. -3 is my box number. I'm going to write down my coefficients. Now, remember, every time you do division, the degree of your problem goes down by 1. So when I do this, I'm going to be left with a cubic. Okay, so I drop down my first number, 1. Every time I go up, I multiply. -3 times 1 is -3. 1 minus 3 is -2. -3 times -2 is 6. -7 plus 6 is 1. -3 times 1 is -3. -9. Sorry, -1. Sorry. -3 times -1 is +3. So -9 plus 3 is -6. -3 times -6 is 18. -18 plus 18 is 0. And yes, I know that this should be 0 because I knew that -3 was a root. Okay, so now what I'm left with, here are my new coefficients to what I have left. First of all, I factored out -3 is my root. So I factored out x plus 3 because that's the factor that comes with this root. Okay, and I'm left with 1. Remember, I start with 1 less exponent. So it's 1x to the third minus 2x squared minus 1x minus 6. Okay, now this, I could do one of two things. I could do synthetic division on it again with the other root that I know, which is +3 here. I'm using my arrow on my screen. Okay, or I could ask myself, can I factor this? Well, this thing is a 4-term polynomial. Okay, I might be able to do factor by grouping on it. I would pull out an x squared above x minus 2, but I can't. I wouldn't be able to do it. Okay, so now I'm going to do synthetic division on this new thing, 1, -2, -1, -6, with the other root that I know, which is 3. Bring down my first number, 1. 3 times 1 is 3. -2 plus 3 is 1. 3 times 1 is 3. -1 plus 3 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. -6 plus 6 is 0. Again, I knew that that would be 0. So now, again, from here, I have a factor of x plus 3. Okay. From here, I have a factor of x minus 3. And what I'm left with is, I was a cubic, so now I'm down to a quadratic, 1x squared plus 1x plus 2. Now, sorry, I went off the screen there. Sorry. Now, this thing is a quadratic. I can type it into John Rick to get my other answers, or I can do the quadratic formula, okay? So I, from my calculator, found that my roots are -3 and 3. I type this into John Rick, okay? And it will tell me that the other two answers are -1 plus minus I radical 7 all over 2. Again, I get that by typing this thing right here into John Rick or doing the quadratic formula. Okay. We can do one more, of course, if you'd like. Now, let me remind you, you don't always have to do this. So if, in fact, if I said find all the roots of this thing, okay, if I said find all the roots of x to the third minus 4x squared plus 9x minus 36, the first thing you should ask yourself is, can I factor that? This is a 4-term polynomial, so you should think factor by grouping. I pull the GCF out of the front. I try to make this say this. How do I turn a 9x? Sorry, this is just x. How do I turn a 9x into an x? I pull out a 9. Okay, so I would have x squared plus 9 and x minus 4. When I'm finding all the roots, this gives me an answer of positive 4. I would set 9 or x squared plus 9 equal to 0. X squared equals -9. So when I square root, I get that x equals plus minus 3i. Okay, so you don't have to use this long method if you can factor it. You only want to use this long method like this when you cannot factor it. Okay, so let's do one more. Let me find one real fast that we'll be able to do. How about something like x to the fourth plus 3x to the third plus x squared minus 12x minus 20. And we want to find all the roots. Well, again, this is 5 terms, so I don't know how to factor that. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to have to do is go to my y equals button and type it in. And let the calculator give me a root. Okay, and then I can do division with it so that I can work it down to a quadratic and use John Rick or whatever method I want to once it's something that I know how to factor or that I can type into John Rick. Okay, so I hit graph on this thing. Oh, I got 2 and -2. Now, it's not always going to be 2 and -2 or 3 and -3. The ones I've picked for you right now, that just keeps happening. Okay? All right, so I can choose -2 to start with. -2 is my box number. Here's my coefficients. I'm doing synthetic division. You can do long division if you want, although I think that that's more time consuming. Okay, I'll drop down my first number. -2 times 1 is -2. 3 minus 2 is 1. -2 times 1 is again -2. 1 minus 2 is -1. -2 times -1 is 2. -12 plus 2 is -10. -2 times -10 is 20. -20 plus 20 is 0. Again, this has to be a 0, or I shouldn't have used this number. Okay? So I know that one answer is -2. All right? Now, here, what I'm left with, again, has one less degree, one less coefficient than my current problem. So I'm left with 1x to the third plus 1x squared minus 1x minus 10. Okay. If I could factor that, I would, but I can't. I can't do that by factor by grouping. So now I'm going to use the other root that my calculator showed me, which you can see here is 2. And I'm going to do synthetic division again with this new thing, coefficients of 1, 1, -1, and -10. Okay, I'm going to drop down my first number. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Negative 1 plus 6 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10, and again, that's 0. Okay, so now I'm left with, again, one less exponent than what I had before here, which was a cubic. So I've got 1x squared plus 3x plus 5. Okay, and I'm going to get my calculator right now. Hold on, I'm making a video for school. Give me 1 second, okay?
I love you.
I love you. Okay, so now, guys, as you can see, I'm just going to type this into my calculator, okay, into the John Rick program here. So I'm going to go to program.
I love you.
I love you. I'm going to go to the program, and I'm going to type in A is 1, B is 3, C is 5. And my final two roots are negative 3. Sorry, negative 3 plus minus I radical 11 all over 2. Those are my, hold on, Maddie, for 1 second. Those are my two complex roots. And remember, my calculator showed me 2 and negative 2. Those are my 4 answers. Okay? That's the end of this video. I'm just trying to shut it down again, which I've been having problems with.